Hi guys, in this lesson we're going to look at routing and switching. So these are really important concepts to understand about how we move data over networks. So let's say we have some computers connected to a switch. Now a switch is a layer 2 device, so it's a device which you can plug a network cable into, and it helps to move data between computers. So a computer here can communicate with another computer via the switch, and the switch actually keeps a table of addresses which are known as media access control addresses, MAC addresses, and it uses that to know which port to send the data out of. Now let's say we have another network also with a series of computers connected by a switch, and each of these has a separate range of IP addresses. So that means these are different network segments. Now IP, the protocol which is used for this addressing, runs at layer 3. So what we need is a layer 3 device if we want to be able to send data from a computer with an IP in this range to a computer with an IP address in a different IP range. So that's known as a router. That's a layer 3 device. So switches can't do that. They're only layer 2, which means they don't understand IP. So if we want to send data from this computer here to the computer at the top here, we send that data to the router. The router understands where the different networks are. So this is the route table associated with the router, and that is the table that it uses to look up where to send the destination traffic to. Now in this case it's very simple. The router has two interfaces, and it knows which interface corresponds with which network. So if a communication has a destination in the 10 range, it knows to send it out of ETH1. So that's a very basic level of how routing works. Now let's have a look at route tables in a bit more detail. So let's say we have a router and it's connected to a network switch, and that network is the 192.168.0.0/24 network, and it's connected via Ethernet 0, and it has an IP address on that range. Now it then has Ethernet 1, and that's in a different IP address range, and it's connected to another router, and that router has Ethernet 0 connected to the network connection between these two routers, and obviously it has its own IP address on that range. It then has another interface connected to another router, and then the router at the top is connected to multiple networks. So we have the 192.168.3 network out Ethernet 1 and the 192.168.4 network out of Ethernet 2. So that's a slightly more complex diagram. What I want to show you now is the route table for this particular router in the middle here. Now each router will have its own route table which will be different, but I just want to show you to help you understand route tables and how they work. So we're going to look at the example from this particular router in the middle of our topology. So the first entry here is for the 192.168.1.0 network. Now that connection is via Ethernet 0 because it's directly connected. So we know that because it has an IP in that range itself, so it's a direct connection. There's no additional hops. Now the next network is the 192.168.0.0 network, and we know that's down here, so that's via this particular router. So what it does is it has an entry in its route table that simply says go via 192.168.1.1, which is the IP of the next hop router. So that's all it knows. It doesn't know the full path to the end destination. It just knows that any data that's going to that network needs to go this direction to this particular router, and then it will take care of it from there. The next entry is the 192.168.2 network, and that's via Ethernet 1. So again, it's a directly connected network. It's this one here between these two routers. Next up, we have the 192.168.3 network, which is up here, and the 4 network, which is up on the right hand side. Now both of these will be via 192.168.2.2, so that's the IP address of this router. Now this is a really simplified view. The interface names would be different in a real world. Obviously there'd be a lot more complexity, and there can be many more networks as well. But that's just to show you at a basic level how route tables work. So they help a router to understand what is the next hop to a specific destination. And they can actually build these dynamically, or they can be statically defined. Now that's it for now. Later on in the course, we'll look at how we can configure route tables within the AWS cloud using the route tables in a virtual private cloud, a VPC network.